Here we are at the Apex conference with John Ostrower and Mary Kirby. And let's talk about how you feel the conference has gone in terms of the new ideas and new technologies that you've seen. What's exciting, what's interesting, what do you think is groundbreaking? Ladies first, John.
One of the biggest stories and themes out of this show is that the next generation in-flight entertainment and connectivity platforms are going to be based on the Android mobile operating platform system. And it's really quite interesting and inspiring because this opens up a whole new world for airlines in terms of applications for the Android system, and it just myself and Don were given this amazing opportunity to see the Panasonic vision for the next gen Android based system, and we sat there in awe. We were just absolutely amazed at the difference, and what is in store for passengers is so exciting.
And just kind of build on that, really not as only what is in store for passengers in the near term, but also kind of in the long term when you start looking at the integration of mobile devices that are already running this operating system, having the identical platform as what's in the seat back in front of you. So what you really get is a totally different structure for how you build the passenger experience, whether it's customizing what's on your phone, whether it's using the connectivity in the airplane to really feed a totally different kind of passenger experience that really airlines have really only sought to achieve on today's connectivity in a Linux-based system.
I should also make clear that it wasn't just Panasonic who announced this. Thales also said that their next generation IFEC system will be based on Android, and they're also bringing to market very quickly an Android-based handset for their current generation i8000 system. So they're already moving very, very quickly. Panasonic has opened a new Panasonic Avionics app store, and so that's been one of the real big buzz stories of the show.
The thing that I found so interesting is by going down the road of Android, what has not been said but is clearly happening is that there's the recognition at last that the personal handheld device is king. Yeah. And for example, we're not going to have input devices in your seat that break. It's going to be your smartphone or your iPad or your iPod that's going to drive these systems. That to me is a phenomenal thing because now your personal device is going to always work because it's yours. You're going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's going to drive these systems, and that's going to make that system that you're looking at personal.
Yeah.
And that to me is a phenomenal change in the way content is going to work.
Yeah, good.
Well, on the basis for certification, you look at how that shifts over time. And really, from a dispatch reliability and a reliability of technology, I have my cell phone with me all the time, whether day or night. When I want it on, I just, as long as it has battery, it goes on and it gets me the information I need. So you have a platform that essentially is almost unharmable, without any kind of serious interaction with just the app sitting on top of the platform. So the stability is inherent in the design. So the amount of money that will be saved, the amount of hassle that will be saved by not having to worry about the underlying basis of these systems is just incredible.
Isn't it incredible if you think back, Mary, even 2 years ago when we were in Long Beach the last time, how from nowhere, remember when you went to these different demonstration places,
absolutely.
there were iPods everywhere.
I know it.
And
everywhere
now,
we looked.
And suddenly from nowhere, they don't say the G word.
They don't.
But Google is everywhere, even though it's not.
Google is everywhere, and really, but I mean, from the standpoint of the aviation, from the airline standpoint, it's going to be very, very significant because right now, when they want to bring apps to their IFE, it can take 8 or 9 months to get these apps developed, and get everything certified and up to snuff. Now, if you're operating over Android, they can pull these apps. I mean, literally, Panasonic was just pulling apps right off and right onto their current generation systems. Which, I mean, so what should be clarified here is it's not just future generation. Their intent is that current generation systems, their latest versions, will be able to have a certain amount of Android apps pulled onto them. So, I mean, it's really exciting for airlines. The turnover, they can do it fast, immediately versus 8 or 9 months.
The other thing that I think fascinating is because it's an open system and because it's unlike Windows or unlike Linux, this is a much more vibrant system, much more dynamic system, and as a consequence provides a stable platform maybe for a decade.
Well, exactly. And Google's path on their development, investing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of man hours in developing this platform for handheld devices, for tablets, and now in-flight entertainment, that you really see this applicability across these platforms that gives you just an enormous amount of flexibility. And that flexibility ultimately implies that the time to market for IFE providers is significantly reduced, because a lot of the development work on the back end is now done for them,
right.
Whether it's by outside developers or whether it's done by Google's computer science guys themselves in terms of developing the operating system.
Well,
so
you have an army of thousands now.
Exactly, as opposed to just taking and skinning a Linux system, which takes 15 minutes to boot up every
Right.
Right. So I think that it's interesting. All three of us came away with that. What other hot things do you see? The thing that, for example, I'm always concerned when you see all the bells and whistles, that's too far down.
Yeah.
But really, what can an airline use right now to start making money?
What's happening right now for them to make money? Well, obviously, some of them are going to use these IFEC systems to generate revenue. That is part of the plan. I mean, we're even seeing airlines doing that right now, that are bringing very high-end IFEC to their aircraft, but charging. And some of them are charging not insignificant amounts to view the content. Hawaiian Airlines is a carrier that actually comes to mind immediately. They're charging for the content. And I asked Hawaiian, well, do you expect that this is going to offset the cost of the equipment? And they kind of hedge a little bit on the answer to that, but the overall idea is that it's the cost of doing business. You have to, for long-haul travel now, have an IFE system for passengers. I mean, you just have to. You cannot compete without offering something like that.
100% of the wide-body aircraft coming off of Boeing's line.
They're all coming off with embedded IFE. They're all coming off.
Another thing that I found fascinating, particularly because everybody's worried always about the revenue side of stuff, something that occurred to me in speaking with numerous people today is the fact that what we're seeing is this incredible seepage into these systems of social media.
Yeah.
So, for example, I spoke with a few people today, and not only guys, spoke with a few people today, and I said, why don't you have someone like Twitter or Facebook sponsoring usage on these systems? And there was, the reaction generally was like wry smiles, as if we're not going to tell you about that.
Right.
But the thing is, we know that social media requires ubiquitous connectivity. The problem they're always getting is getting people to start using these systems, the online, the access.
Yeah.
Mary, you're smiling.
Well, no, because I moderated a panel earlier in the week for Apex, and this is one of the topics that we discussed. It's very, very interesting that a lot of the service providers and hardware manufacturers are looking at how do you lure people in, and what do you give them to do that, and do you give them a little bit of social media maybe to draw them in, because the reality is, when someone uses connectivity for the first time, by and large, they're sending that first tweet. We've all seen it, right? I'm tweeting from 30,000. I mean, everybody is now doing this. And so they're realizing that they have to have some forms of even basic
it's the drug
social
model.
media. It is. It brings them in. And then once they're in there, then they start playing. And they start, I want to go over here. That's going to cost $6 for that premium. Okay, fair enough. I'm getting to have fun with Twitter. I can watch this show, and I'll cough up a few bucks to do it. And so what's great is that social media is helping to generate excitement about IFEC.
And taking that one step farther, imagine that from an acceptance point of view, the operating system itself is now common to your phone.
Right.
And where you're already spending money on apps already. So from a psychological point of view, there really is no barrier between the interface.
You're halfway there.
You're halfway there. So the comfort level, between what you see on the operating system, what you see on your handheld device, it's essentially the same. So you really almost get them right up to the line to start spending money right on the airplane.
It seems, just as a quick wrap here, it seems although the show itself doesn't seem to be revolutionary, there's this undercurrent of something happening that is much more significant than I think many people here possibly realize.
Well, I think has always been the theme of the aviation industry. It's not that someone comes out with something revolutionary and everyone says, "Oh wow," and everyone goes, "Okay, well now there are a slew of questions that have to be answered about that product." I think the most successful products of the last 5-10 years have been the ones that take an existing idea and take it incrementally farther and being able to stretch the technology. And when you introduce something like in-flight connectivity, which fundamentally is an evolution on a system that we saw coming into play earlier in the decade. That getting to the point where the cost comes down and you can build off of that platform and the core of that and the branches that come with that, that you ultimately can get these incremental evolutions rather than revolutions in what happens on board the airplane.
And just to follow on to that very quickly, there is definitely, and the undercurrent is the key word there, you're absolutely right, that there is change afoot. People realize that, and there's change also happening from a more a broader standpoint, in that hardware manufacturers, service providers are starting to realize they can't be in these kind of exclusive relationships. Just like Android is open, the IFEC industry and interiors industries are starting to think a little bit more open. You're seeing the integrated IFEC seats, right? That's all about open thinking, sharing information. You give me your seat data, we'll give you our IFEC specs, and let's all come together. We're seeing it across the board. So there's this mentality of Google, Android, open is kind of a good parallel to what's happening across the interiors and IFEC industries. So,
Thanks so much.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Edison.